Manifest Destiny and White Privilege, a Historical Perspective. The ideology that became known as Manifest Destiny included a belief in the inherent superiority of white Americans, as well as the conviction that they were destined by God to conquer the territories of North America, from sea to shining sea. This belief system justified extreme measures to clear the native population from the land, including forced removal and violent extermination. For proponents of Manifest Destiny, American Indians were viewed as mere impediments to the forward march of racial and technological progress, and they advocated for a policy of Indian removal. White privilege and Manifest Destiny both reflect systemic racism and institutionalized discrimination, albeit in different ways. Both ideologies involve power dynamics that perpetuate inequality. Manifest Destiny was rooted in the belief that white Americans were entitled to expand their territory and dominate indigenous peoples. This belief justified the colonization, displacement, and subjugation of non-white communities. Similarly, white privilege refers to the advantages and benefits that white individuals experience in society due to their race. It is a result of historical and ongoing systemic inequalities that have favored white individuals and marginalized people of color. Both Manifest Destiny and white privilege are rooted in structural inequality. Manifest Destiny supported the idea of white Americans' inherent superiority and their right to claim and control land, leading to the marginalization and displacement of indigenous peoples. White privilege, on the other hand, refers to the systemic advantages that white individuals have in various areas of life, such as education, employment, housing, and criminal justice. These advantages stem from historical and ongoing structural biases and discrimination. The power dynamics involved in both Manifest Destiny and white privilege relate to the unequal distribution of power and resources based on race. Power dynamics. White privilege grants individuals from white racial backgrounds social and cultural power, meaning their beliefs, values, and experiences are often seen as the norm or standard in society. This power allows white individuals to shape societal norms, institutions, and systems to their advantage. Consequently, white privilege often translates into economic advantages, such as better job opportunities, higher wages, and access to wealth-building resources. This economic power reinforces the racial wealth gap, where white individuals tend to have more financial resources and opportunities compared to people of color. Both Manifest Destiny and white privilege have resulted in the marginalization and oppression of non-white communities. Manifest Destiny led to the displacement, forced assimilation, and erasure of indigenous cultures and communities. Similarly, white privilege perpetuates the marginalization of people of color by limiting their access to resources, opportunities, and equal treatment. This marginalization is deeply rooted in systemic racism and institutionalized discrimination. Justification of inequality. Both white privilege and Manifest Destiny have been used to justify and maintain social and economic inequality. Manifest Destiny provided a moral and ideological justification for the expansion of white Americans at the expense of indigenous peoples. Similarly, white privilege often goes unrecognized or is downplayed, allowing for the perpetuation of systemic racism and the maintenance of existing power structures. It is crucial to recognize and understand these similarities to address and dismantle systemic racism and institutionalized discrimination. By acknowledging and challenging white privilege and the historical legacy of Manifest Destiny, we can work towards creating a more equitable and just society for all individuals. I may have just lost my head. However, I have not lost my mind. I use this as an example to highlight how the contrast effect is an unconscious bias that occurs when two things are judged in comparison to one another. This phenomenon predominantly exists in administrative environments within the workplace, and is just one of many biases that disrespect and discriminate. For those in denial about the existence of white privilege, it is often overlooked because it exists right under their noses. White privilege is so embedded within our sociological infrastructures that it becomes lost in the normality of our current society. Under the guise of professionalism, there is a defined perception that professionalism means conforming to a certain appearance and behavior, favoring a more traditional, white-collar image. This can inadvertently discriminate against individuals who do not fit that mold, particularly regarding factors like dress code and communication style. This leads to the stereotyping of those who do not conform to these outdated perceptions. Take my experience, for example. Would you think less of my presentation than of my white counterpart? Would you assume I'm only presenting this subject matter because I must be an angry black man or a radical leftist? Would there be any negative opinions or thoughts regarding my selection to represent the topic if I were chosen over my white counterpart? This is the contrast effect at play. Between us, there may be an unconscious choice favoring the white individual, leading to judgments based on stereotypical assumptions. Recently, I have come across business articles specifically mentioning Generation Z and how they were terminated for not conforming to traditional white-collar expectations. Thank God for this generation. Finally, we have individuals who prioritize different values and goals beyond traditional corporate objectives, placing employee well-being over mere profitability. By changing the way one presents themselves through style, communication, and embracing work-life balance, individuals can represent their authenticity rather than conform to expected norms. Imagine embracing our future generations instead of attempting to hold them back with outdated ideas and systems. This is progress. It is evolution. It is a new dawn, a product of technological parenting. How do you see it?